Voters in Argentina are heading back to the polls again for a presidential runoff. That's because neither of the two main candidates obtained at least 45% of the required vote. But how will a new leader deal with the many issues facing Argentinians? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Hazem Sika. Argentina is facing its first presidential runoff after a close result in the first round on Sunday. Incumbent President Cristina Kirchner's chosen successor, Daniel Scioli, is running against conservative rival Mauricio Macri. Scioli took nearly 37% of the vote, while Macri managed to nab almost 35%. Under Argentinian law, a candidate must get more than 45% of the vote to win the presidency outright. Many see this election as a referendum as well on 12 years of leadership under the Kirchners. First Nestor, then his wife Cristina. Scioli has promised to continue the core of the Kirchners' policies, while Macri has vowed to put an immediate end to it. We'll get to our guests in a moment, but first, Teresa Bo sets up our discussion from Buenos Aires.
It seemed impossible, but Mauricio Macri, the leader of the Let's Change coalition, forced the powerful ruling party to a second round. The first runoff in Argentina's history.
I invite you to conquer our future. It depends on each one of you. I ask you now today to take the years that it takes, and we won't stop until we achieve it. Because every day from December 10th onwards, I promise you that we're going to be a little better.
His followers celebrated until late at night. Many couldn't believe what was going on.
We are going to go to a historic election and we will win. We are going to win the presidency and we are going to be an excellent government.
But at the Front for Victory headquarters, the scene was completely different. Daniel Scioli, Cristina Kirchner's hand-picked successor, appealed to the undecided voters, promising more reforms.
With all my experience, I asked the undecided and independent to vote for this agenda for a great future for Argentinian development.
Until a few minutes ago, this place was filled with people expressing their support for Daniel Scioli. But now they're leaving, obviously disappointed because they expected Scioli to get a lot more votes. Some have stayed, however, saying that they're getting ready for the runoff in November.
This is the way democracy works. We'll have to convince people that ours was a better choice.
Analysts here say the big challenge is the power Cristina Kirchner will have once she hands over the presidency to whomever wins in November.
In
November, after the runoff, the problem is governability. Cristina will continue to have power, will continue to have influence. She wants to come back in 2019. It's going to be difficult for any president.
With less than a month to go, both candidates will now use this time to fight hard for the presidency. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
So lots to talk about there. Let's get the thoughts of our guests then. In Buenos Aires, we have Adrian Bono, founder and CEO of digital media company The Bubble. Joining us from New York, Federico Finchelstein, professor of history at the New School for Social Research. And also in Buenos Aires, Diego Guelar, international relations secretary at opposition candidate Mauricio Macri's Pro Party. Good to have you all with us, gentlemen. Adrian, let me start with you then. What is the essential choice here facing Argentinians? It was a very close result so far.
Well, it was a very close result, and it was a very upsetting result for Daniel Scioli because according to every poll in this country, he was very, very close to winning in the first round. So now what everybody would like to know is what comes next. You know, we have 1 month in which the gloves are certainly going to come off. We heard to Daniel Scioli's speech, which seemed more virulent than all the speeches that he's done before. So it seems like really the gloves have come off now, and he's going to come after Mauricio Macri in a desperate appeal to win the votes of the undecided and the independent. Let's not forget that in some way, even though he represents some change, in some way, this is Cristina Kirchner's legacy that's at stake.
Federico, what's your view on this? And does it surprise you that the result was this close? Because as Adrian was alluding to there, the expectation going into this vote was that Scioli was very much ahead, and it was all a question of what his margin of victory would be. Does that surprise you?
Well, it was surprising to some extent. Although in Argentina there were important doubts regarding Scioli's ability to grow, so basically even if he was going to win, which of course he didn't, it was a matter of very small differences. So basically he lost a couple of points down. Now, historically, and Adrian was referring to this, the question that emerges is that of the legacy, and I think for the first time today, we can start talking about Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, in the past tense. Because even as of yesterday, she was not a lame duck president, which was kind of surprising for, if you compare Argentina with other countries in the world.
Diego Guelar, this is being seen to a great extent as a referendum on the Kirchner era. But your man Mauricio Macri obviously has some ideas that he says are different, but also similar in some ways. Just talk about what your candidate represents and whether this would be a real departure from the Kirchner policies.
Well, I don't have any doubt that the Kirchner cycle is finished. After four years without any growing, with 30% inflation, this is over. The opposition have around 60% of the votes. That means in a second turn, where the options are 1 or 2, continuity or change, I don't have any doubt that Cambiemos, the great front that is going to lead the second turn, is going to obtain in between 55 and 60% of the votes.
But what's different about your man?
Well, what is different is that he represents very clearly a major change to return Argentina to the world. We have very bad relations with the United States and Europe, that are our traditional partners. We have to strengthen the relation with Brazil, that is also in bad shape. We are going to continue with our new partnership with China, as many other countries, but we are going to normalize immediately the relations with the United States and with Europe. Of course, the state is going to keep being very, very active. We have a great problem of poverty in Argentina, and we have to overcome that problem. That is a real priority, not to make authoritarianism and populism, but really to solve the poverty problem. And in such a rich country like Argentina, it's really a shame on us that we still have in between 25 to 30% of poverty in our country.
All right, well, you bring up a number of issues there, which I want to hopefully get into in a bit more detail in a moment. But let's just talk about, for the benefit of our viewers, how we got to this point in Argentina. During the past 70 years, politics in Argentina has been shaped by what is known as Peronism. It is a movement based on the legacy of former President Juan Perón and his famous wife Evita. But let's take a closer look at what's happened more recently. After a 7-year military rule, Raúl Alfonsín was elected in indirect elections in 1983. He was the main architect of the democratic transition in Argentina. And in 1989, he gave power to Peronist politician Carlos Menem. Menem was re-elected in the first direct elections in 1995. At the turn of the century, Argentina was hit by a severe economic crisis that has had a long-lasting impact. Peronists returned to power in 2003 with the election of Nestor Kirchner. His wife, Cristina Kirchner, succeeded him in 2007, and Nestor died 3 years later, and Cristina was re-elected in 2011. Now, we're going to get into some of that over the course of this program, but I want to talk about this the Peronism and the influence that it still seems to have on Argentine politics. Adrian Bono, just explain to us, what exactly is Peronism?
There's a saying here in Argentina that it's like the hardest thing to explain to a foreigner is what is Peronism. Basically, Peronism it's a movement. It gathers a lot of traction with a part of the middle class and the lower class, but it doesn't really respond to a specific ideology. It can't be right, it can't be left. You just mentioned President Carlos Menem, who was president in Argentina between 1989 and 1999. He was a Peronist, and today he stands in the exact opposite of what Cristina Fernández de Kirchner stands for. So basically, Peronism is a platform that, it involves certain populism, but at the same time, it involves a specific set of values targeting the middle class and the lower class, and this helps with a lot of voters. This is why it is very, very significant that, considering the strength that Peronism has had, especially in the last 30 years, the fact that suddenly a major, I would say, a growing political force such as Let's Change or Cambiemos has managed to get the amount of votes that it's gotten. For example, the Buenos Aires province, which is the largest electoral district in Argentina, home to 15 million people, yesterday they lost the Peronist candidate, Aníbal Fernández, who's an ally of Cristina. He lost to María Eugenia Vidal, who's a member of Let's Change, of Cambiemos. No one was expecting that. So I think that the question here is a lot bigger. Has suddenly the Argentine population decided that it's time to change, decided that it's time to move on from Peronism, or at least try something different? I guess time will have to say.
Federico, is this part of the natural cycle of politics? You think that after a few years, after what's been over 10 years now, 12 years of the Kirchner era, it's just time, it's just the right time for a change in Argentina, or does this represent a real rejection of the Kirchner era?
I think to some extent it implies both. It is a rejection. It is also the expression of a need for change. The interesting thing about Peronism, and having written a book about it, I think I can tell you a couple of things about it. And the main important thing is that, as Adrian was suggesting, but also, basically there is no mystery there. It is a way of understanding democracy in an authoritarian way. It is not a dictatorship. It's a populist way of understanding democracy. What this means is that basically means that the leaders in a Peronist understanding of things will basically understand that they are not representatives of the people, but rather that they know better than the people, they are voted, and then there is a full delegation of power. Thereby, you can understand Cristina Fernández de Kirchner's policies as that, basically a person that basically ruled as if she knew better what the people wanted and never felt she was a representative. Now, the question then is whether this style of politics will change beyond the names. And I will not be as optimistic as whether Peronism is out of the equation in Argentina, because basically what you see, what you saw yesterday, for example, there were three candidates. Two of them, one was an official Peronist, the other one, Massa, was a Peronist of the right, a former member of the government, and then in the Macri coalition you also have Peronists. So the question is really basically whether that populist style of politics will change, whether we will see a more, let's say, a proposal for a multi-party or coalition government in any of the candidates, whether we will see basically the idea that Argentina will be putting an emphasis now on institutions. A couple of things which remain. You might know, because in the international media earlier this year, there was a prosecutor that accused the president. He died in very mysterious circumstances. This was not an issue in the campaign, and I think there is an expectation that the new president will address this issue, and more generally the issue of intelligence in Argentina, which has been quite problematic.
Yeah, let's put that to Diego Guelar. Do you think if Macri won, he would address those issues that have just been mentioned?
Yes, I really think that we are living a major shift in Argentinian politics for the first time, probably from the 80s up to now, the democratic period in Argentina. We are going to have a well-balanced system. We are going to have an independent Supreme Court. We are going to have a balanced Congress. We are going to need to build, because finally Cambiemos, that means our front, it's a proposal, but we are going to need to build that proposal in an active way. And to have this well-balanced political system where there is no authoritarianism possible. I have to remember that 4 years ago, President Cristina won with 54% of the votes, and the second have just 17%. She controlled with absolute majority both chambers, the representatives and senators. We have a federal country, and she could do what she wanted to do in an immediate way. That is not going to be possible for the next president, and these are good news. That it doesn't mean fragility. On the contrary, that is going to really means a well-balanced political system, and that is a great achievement for Argentina towards the future.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the economic problems. The toughest challenge for Argentina's new leader will be the economy. The problems are caused by a growing budget deficit, which now stands at about 7% of the country's output. To keep it under control, the government is printing money, and as a result, inflation is one of the highest in the world at over 28% last year. And there's a long-running dispute over debt restructuring, as we've been saying, with a group of foreign funds. That means Argentina can't borrow abroad, which hurts its economic growth. So let me turn back to you then, Diego. If Mr. Macri, the man who you work for, wins, what will he do in terms of negotiating this long-running fight with U.S. creditors? Because it's good if when he does do that, it's going to involve some level of caving in, isn't it?
Well, I don't have any doubt that we are going to have an independent central bank, that we are going to unify the exchange rate market, that we are going to have transparent statistics, and of course that we are going to face an external negotiation of our debts, and we are going to normalize the financial participation of Argentina in the world. There is many interest, specifically in agribusiness, in energy, to participate in Argentina. We are a very rich country with steel, with soya, with oil, with gas. That means that the world is expecting normalization in Argentina. I don't have any doubt we are going to normalize our standards, and that we are going to receive strong support, a lot of foreign investment and a lot of local investment, including lots of funds that belong to Argentinians and that are overseas and are going to come back.
When you talk about normalizing, would that involve paying off these U.S. creditors?
Well, I don't have any doubt that we need to negotiate, because we are still in default, and including the official candidate announced, Mr. Scioli, that he was ready to negotiate. That means that there is no other way. You are a member of international community. We need to negotiate. We are ready to do so, and we don't have any doubt that we are going to receive a major support in this chapter.
Adrian Bono, there is a suggestion that Cristina Kirchner will remain politically active in some way, that she doesn't seem like the type to just kind of walk off into the sunset, that she will have some sort of influence. If that's the case, what do you think that would involve?
Well, there's been a lot of speculation about what Cristina's role is going to be after December 10th when she leaves office. And I think it's going to be an interesting position for her, but considering how used to being in power she is, especially since she's been in power for the last 8 years, and her husband was president from 2003 to 2007. So if you look at the dynamic of the Victory Front Party, which Scioli belongs to and Cristina belongs to, it's no coincidence that he was almost forced to accept Zanini, who's his running mate, as you know, as the potential vice president of Argentina. This is a person that is extremely close to her. He is even considered to be kind of like the architect of Kirchnerism. So I would dare to say that she's not going to go away easily. However, did last night's election result change a little bit of that? Maybe. There was even speculation a few months ago that she may be trying to run again for president in 2019 because she's allowed by the Constitution. But I don't know if last night's result changed that. We've been hearing that a lot of their supporters and even people who are in Congress, you know, congresswomen and congressmen who support her, who are they're so-called the hardcore Kirchnerizers or the ultra Kirchnerizers, they've been calling for her to come back. But I have to say that even though she may be trying to pull the strings in the back or at least try to be or have some kind of power, I'm not sure if Scioli is going to let her do that. In the last couple of weeks, we heard him say or suggest that he was going to represent continuity with some change. But those changes were, as Diego Guelar was saying, included, for example, negotiating or at least getting to the table and negotiate with the so-called vulture funds, with the holdouts, something that in her administration has been completely rejected. That was something that was never going to happen. So I guess that right now we have no choice but to wait and see what she does. Will she try to pull the strings, you know, behind the curtain? Maybe she will, but we don't know.
Federico, have we seen the end of Cristina Kirchner?
I think we are beginning to see the end. I actually disagree. I mean, if history provides a metaphor or even an indication, when I see Cristina Kirchner, I see Carlos Menem, which is to say that basically I think once she, I mean, her best hope will be, even if in case her candidate wins, will be to somehow occupy a role in the antechamber of power. I mean, she will not be powerful, she will not be at the executive, which sadly Argentina has such a presidentialist system where the president has a lot of power and can basically do what, I mean, without institutional barriers, can do what we have seen in the last decade that President Cristina Kirchner and her husband did. Now, the question, of course, is that she will try to do so, to remain in power. I see that whoever wins, this is the last kiss of power for her, that this is not going to be a situation in which she will occupy the role that she had occupied in Argentine politics in the recent past.
Diego, you talked earlier about the need for Argentina to attract more foreign investment, to have a better relationship with the business community, with foreign investors, and so on. But to what extent could that be at the expense of the working people in Argentina? Because that is a section of the country that still enjoys, upon which Kirchner and Mr. Scioli enjoy a lot of support, these big spending social programs. What would Mauricio Macri do with those?
Well, we never opposed the well-being of people and investment. On the contrary, we think that we need to improve investment and create jobs urgently in Argentina to ameliorate the situation of the people. And in that way, we are sure that we are going to have the backing of the unions, of the entrepreneurs, and I would say that I include the majority of the leaders that won this past election in provinces, in cities that formally belongs yet to the Cristina sector, and I don't have any doubt that they are going to reject the leadership if she try not to retire. If she wants to be active, she's going to be rejected, and basically we are going to see a new search for a new leadership, and by sure an active cooperation with the new government.
All right, that's going to have to be the last word. Thank you to all three of you. In Buenos Aires, Adrian Bono; in New York, Federico Finchelstein; and also in Buenos Aires, Diego Guelar. Thanks very much for being with us on Inside Story. And thank you for watching. As always, you can leave your comments on the program's page of our website, aljazeera.com, and you can post your views to us on Facebook. We're on facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. We're on Twitter as well. You can tweet us at AJ Inside Story is the handle there. Thanks for watching. From me, Hazem, Sika, and all the team here, bye for now.